The heads camp going in Spain, and why did you decide to do that? Maybe differently to previous?
Part of it was the players felt it would be a good idea, and I felt it was a good idea as well. I think we knew this season was going to be particularly tough with 2 European games, 3 derbies, and then 2 more European games. So it's been 7 tough weeks. So the first thing is to regenerate a bit, and then really roll our sleeves up. It means we get into our own little bubble. It also means that the conditions that we train in are consistent, so that we can get a volume of work done, as opposed to in the past occasionally we've either had really heavy frosts that have caused the ground to be a little bit hard to train on, or deluges that it's hard to do organisational work. You might have to play in that, and so you can train in that for sure, but just to try to get everyone organised again, it's good to be able to do it in consistent and relatively fine conditions.
Yeah, Jordan Larmour is the uncapped player in the squad. What do you like about his game, and what convinced you he's ready to step up?
Probably because I've seen a fair bit of him. I saw him when he was fresh out of St Andrews, and he's been in a camp probably. First time was probably, I don't know, 16 months ago during the November series. So we've spent a bit of time having Jordan in, and to get him in permanently now is just to potentially accelerate his progress into the matchday squad and into potentially a starting 15. So the things that we've seen in Jordan, obviously the most visible things are his ability to accelerate, to change direction, but he's a skillful young man as well. He's effective in the air. His passing skills are good. He fully commits to the physical aspect of the game as well. So and he's a really good kid, Jordan. So that's always a compelling factor as well.
Joe, speaking of speed and acceleration, how happy are you with Keith Harris's performances over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, Keith's been super, hasn't he? And to be honest, I felt he finished last season really strongly as well. We were disappointed that he was unavailable during the November series, but he's come back and he's hit the ground running fast, and so he also brings a bit of experience to that back three as well, because with young Jacob, Andrew Conway hasn't spent a lot of time with us, and we've got Fergus McFadden back there, and he's got a strength in goal kicking as well. We just wanted to cover our bases there, and maybe take some pressure off Joey Carberry if that's needed, and the experience of Rob Carney. So that we kind of like the balance of that back three, or those 6 players who are covering it.
Joe, you were late for the photo call today. Was that a bit of gamesmanship from you, just to get the other coaches a bit more soaked in the rain?
No, it wasn't that wet, I didn't think. But I heard the forecast was going to get worse, so I thought I would try to leave them out as long as I could. To be fair, I was eating.
What was it then? What's a rugby coach eat on a 6 and 8 lunch?
Bacon sandwich, lettuce, tomato. I think there was a little bit of egg in there. If it wasn't egg, it was mayonnaise, and it was nice. Yeah, but it's frustrating because you've got to eat in a hurry, because I didn't really want to leave them out there, and I didn't realise I was late.
Joe, not to talk about Ty Burns' exceptional performances, understandably. How close was he to being in the mix, and if he was, what was the decision based around?
Yeah, it's a complex one when they're playing away from Ireland, and he's committed to coming back to Munster next year, which is super. And we had a conversation at the start of the season about that happening, and we had a really good conversation recently. I think the problem with Tigers that the regulation 9 is a camp week this week, but that's only a 3-day camp. So if we take him to Spain, then we're required to make him back available to Scarlets. He's played 1,350 minutes already this season. Our players don't usually play that much. Now, I had a great chat with Wayne Pivac as well. They've had injuries to Jake Ball and Lewis Rawlinson, so that happens in squads sometimes. And because he's so resilient, and because he plays so well, I thought he was huge in the last 2 games, and the Toulon game particularly. But he's going to come in and visit us and we'll get to catch up again. Tig, I've known him since he was in Leinster, and I think he's a really committed young man as well, and I wouldn't rule them out completely, but it is complicated. It also means during the Six Nations, just that backwards and forwards that happens. So we have those camp weeks or a regeneration week where players get a bit of a rest. He's got to go back and be available to play for Scarlets, and that intermittent involvement with the squad, when it's your first involvement particularly, is probably one of the things that just tipped the balance away from him. And the other thing that tipped the balance is, I thought James Ryan was really good against Montpellier. Ian Henderson is playing big for Ulster. I thought he played big last week. Dev Toner has carried really well for Leinster, as well as his line-out acumen. Quinn Rue has been a really physical contributor to the Connacht cause, and Alton Delan his repeated high-intensity game involvements have been really good as well. So, when you stack that up, and you've still got guys, like Kieran Treadwell and Billy Holland who are working hard, playing well in Ireland, you're always trying to get that balance right about selecting Tig with that intermittent involvement with those high game minutes. It just is a little bit complicated, but that complication will cease at the end of the season, and that may be an opportunity.
Is Simon Zebo a consideration for the Six Nations? Obviously, he wasn't selected in the main squad so far.
Yeah, he is in consideration, like anyone else who's currently playing in Ireland. Ironically, I answered the question earlier about the balance that we've got in our back three, and we felt Jordan was probably playing at a level that it was appropriate to select him. I think Simon is great value to have in the squad. He's got an irresistible charm about him. He's always smiling. His positivity is great. But by his own standards, he didn't have a great day in Paris a couple of weeks ago. There's some wayward passing, some turnovers that he'd look back at and be frustrated himself. And it's crucial at the time of selection that we know guys are in good form. And so, there's a bit of time during the Six Nations where there's Pro 14 games that he can still strike a claim.
Eddie Jones has come out recently and he says that England have, and I quote, no hope in the Six Nations because they've got so many injuries. Obviously a bit of tongue-in-cheek probably from him, but what did you make of those comments?
Yeah, look, it must be on the back of having 12 teams to select from, and the 8 days he's had in camp with his team, as opposed to us having 3. I know Eddie from old. I've coached against Eddie in Super Rugby, and I know he's going to throw the odd grenade in. And fair play to him for doing it. It keeps everyone interested, and it keeps us on our toes. We've got to come up with some clever riposte, but we're just not clever enough to do it that well. So, look. We've got 13 guys injured. We've got guys like the ilk of Sean O'Brien and Rhys Ruddock who definitely add to our back row as much as we're excited about the back rows that we've selected. And we've got guys like Jared Payne, who was pivotal to us last time we won the Six Nations in 2015. Only played 1 game last year. And, after a rocky start where he'd only trained on the Thursday, He played incredibly well in that final game at the Aviva Stadium. So, you can always reflect on who you're missing, but you can reflect on that, but you focus on who you got, because they're the guys who are going to make the difference, and those are the guys we're excited about.
Just looking ahead to the first game, France were a bit of a mess in 2017, weren't they? They only won 3 matches. A lot of people talk about you don't know what to expect from France, but they've been consistently poor over the last few years. How do you see that first game? Yeah,
I think that if there was a small knock on in the lead up to the try that they scored that was then taken off them, I think they could have been 10-0 up against us in Dublin. They didn't look too messy at that stage to me. They're a real threat. And I know Jacques. I've coached against Jacques before. Jacques was coaching Perpignan when I was at Clermont, and he beat us in the top 14 final. I know Julien Bonnier incredibly well. I coached Julien for 3 years. His line-out acumen is second to none. His line-out athleticism was also second to none. So they've got some real quality operators. Now, how quickly can they gel? That's a challenge. I'm not sure how much homework people are doing on some of the new selections they've made, but I'm impressed. When a kid who's 19, Jalibert, is doing what he's doing, I think he's a real threat. And Bello is 21, but his performances for Toulon, his ability to, his almost, the French would say, sens de jeu, is really top level. So, there's going to be some interesting challenges for us. And as much as I've got the utmost respect for Guy Noves and what he brought to Toulouse, another man who taught me a few lessons was when I was in Clermont. I think that some of the players he started to bring through, like Macalou and the like, they're going to flourish. And I just hope it's rounds 2, 3, 4 and 5 that happens.
Joe, how are Dave Coyne and Jacob Stockdale looking for the first?
Yeah, Dave won't make the first match. He may come into contention for the second match, I think. Now, he would be a real outside chance for the first game, but he'd be a potential chance for the second game. Jacob should be right to train by the end of this week, and therefore would be in the mix for France.
Joe, what do you make of the current injury toll across the Six Nations? It seems that everyone's missing key players, and in that there was a debate a few months ago, one union perhaps, maybe the English, calling to get rid of the fallow weeks as well. Do you think that's just what's your view on that as well?
I think the fallow weeks are brilliant. The ability, it gives you the ability to come up for air. It keeps the tournament, I think, at the top of the tree. Because it means you're more likely to have players who aren't ground down attritionally for having one break or no breaks, that they can be at their best. And people want to see the best at their best. And while we won't see all of the best because of the nature of the season, we're really excited about the people we've got. I know Eddie is excited about the people he's got. He's just not telling you people that. And it's like that with all the coaches, So I think the people externally are excited about what's coming up. I know that I'm really interested in seeing how Scotland go in Wales. I think that's going to be a cracker. And, with England having to go away to Rome, Italy are always complicated in that first game. I know we played there 3 years ago in our first game, and, we copped a fair bit of flack because we didn't win by much. It's hard to win there at all, let alone by much. So I think the longer Connor has them, I think the better they'll build and the better they'll get. But it's a project that may take longer than this season. And again, I hope so that we can get a win against them.
Who's your player to watch in the Six Nations? Who's a player that you think might just emerge that maybe might not have been a star before?
Globally, in all 6 teams? Yeah, I think it's probably a really good question. I think I would.
Rory, if you like.
Yeah. If he hasn't emerged by now. Look, I was really impressed with Macalou in the November series. I thought individually he's the sort of athlete who can change a game, and I think he could be outstanding. In the set piece, his line-out defence is very difficult to contend with. His ability to get off the line and really win collisions was impressive, and obviously he's an athlete with the ball. So, he's a guy probably because I'm more France focused at the moment. He's a guy who's probably at the front of my mind, as well as those two young teens. You know, I'm not sure which one will play against us, but I think they're both exciting. Now, they may take a bit longer to emerge, whereas I think McAloo is already starting to find his feet at international level, so he's got that little head start that may see him emerge as a real talent.
Rory,
sorry, last couple there. One back.
How has it been for you coming in from the Ulster disappointment and turning the page quickly there, and on the flip side, how have you seen the Leinster guys come into camp after there?
Yeah, well, I think from our point of view, I think it's really, really important that we turn the page very quickly away from Europe. Look, it was I think when you look at it and you go 3 teams with home quarterfinals and going into the last round, we had a chance to win a game to get a quarterfinal and get a bonus point to get a home quarterfinal, which would have been unprecedented. So I think in that top level of club, I think the Irish provinces are doing really, really strongly. Now, the important thing for us is that we take that bit of form from Europe, and we take that bit of momentum that you get from winning games, but ultimately you park all the provincial stuff and you get together as a national side, and that's the important thing, is that sort of momentum created by home quarterfinals and putting yourself in position for that is only useful if we can channel it in the direction of the national team, and like it is important that we do get that right.
Okay, guys, we'll wrap it up there.
Thanks, lads.